What's going on, guys? Fluff here with another How I Mixed tutorial. Now this time we're going to cover the Revv Generator 120 Mark II video that I made, guest starring Tre Xavier from Gear Gods. He was nice enough to contribute a solo for the video, seeing as it was his amp that I was borrowing to make the video with, and he was super cool and ripped a shredding solo. And I posted a real quick video on how to get his solo to cut within the song, but I thought it was appropriate, and I've had a lot of requests to do a How I Mixed for this song now. So let's get started. So this is a song, this is kind of a reworked, simplified version of a song that was out on my solo record called the Fire Breather EP under the Black Metal Bicycle name. This was a complete song with Nick Pierce from Unearth on drums. When we're working on songs, what Nick likes to do often is program the drums in Midi and then send them to whoever he's working with, in this case me, to know exactly what he's going to play in real life once we get into the studio. And I just used that track from back in 2013 and kind of reworked it, chopped it up a little bit, and made it appropriate for the video. So on my MIDI drums, I'm using Easy Drummer 2, like always. This is a modified kit. This video was a first as far as mixing for a few reasons. This is the first time that I used a different kick. I wanted more of a thuddier, I don't know, low end kick, and I actually used the electronic rock kick tone in Easy Drummer 2. It's from the Pop kit. Normally my kicks are much more clicky, and I've seen a lot of comments saying how they hate the kick. So I decided to try another kick, and worked out pretty good. Also on the kick, I have a multi-band compressor, just to kind of keep the boominess in check, depending on how fast the kick drum is going. I don't normally do that, but I did it in this case. So just the drums sound like this. So that's the drums. Obviously, there's the guitars have to come in. We're going to open this up. Now, right off the bat, you will notice that I am missing a DI because I accidentally deleted it after I recorded it. But it was after the reamping. It was actually really late in the mix process, and it didn't matter at that point, so I just left it. Whatever. Doesn't really matter. But, so I have my DI tracks that I normally record to, and then I came in and reamped them. Now, in this case, I had an overdub that was for the real dissonant part. That's just for a second. I didn't like how I really wanted the part defined, so I recorded that separate from the main rhythm track. Now, the main rhythm track is, the signal chain was Maxon OD808 overdrive into the Revv Generator 120 on channel 3, and that was going into a 2-notes Torpedo Studio with a custom cabinet capture that I can't give you guys or tell you about because it's not for public consumption, as they say. But it was basically a Mesa Boogie 412 with a 421 and an SM57, very nicely placed, and that was loaded into the Torpedo Studio, and then off I went. I had a great tone right off the get-go. I think this is a classic example of, not doing a whole lot to a guitar tone. So with everything, it sounds like this. when the big guitars, everything comes in and it gets really real big and very crunchy. So the guitars alone don't have a whole lot on them. So this is the bus down here. Here's the DIs and the overdubs, and then the reamped rhythms and the dissonant. I labeled them dissonant. But all of these tracks are feeding into the bus. Okay? And that's how track stacks in Logic basically work. It's just makes a movable bus, as opposed to having some kind of auxiliary bus to having send stuff to. You can't normally move that around in Logic. Now, I get a lot of questions asking what a bus is. A bus is simply a place where you're going to sum many inputs or sources into one, or you're going to reduce the amount of inputs and sources into a lesser number in this case, and most of the time it's a single bus. You can split it off into different buses if you want to get all fancy pants, but for this example, the guitars, both rhythm guitar tracks are going into the same bus, a summing track, and which is turned into stereo. And I EQ'd just a little bit. I mean, really, there's not a whole lot going on. I just had a dip in the low mids. And then after that, I came in with my virtual mix rack and added just a little bit of thickness and a little bit of shimmer using Slate Virtual Mix Rack. And that is the entire guitar tone. There's nothing on the actual tracks. It's completely empty. This is a really good case of just getting it right at the source. I was super, super happy. And this entire tone, believe it or not, took 3 or 4 minutes to dial in. And I was surprised and shocked, because normally it takes a little bit more time than that. And I just went with it, and I didn't really question how it sounded. I didn't really analyze it too much. I thought it felt good. The palm mute sounded good. The high end wasn't fizzy, and I went with it. So here's the soloed guitar track. Okay, so that's the guitars by themselves. Now, down here at the bass, now obviously the bass guitar has to sit just right. I have my usual setup of 2 DIs. I track 1 DI, and then I copy a second copy, exact copy, down to a second track. And in this instance, I use TuneTrack's Easy Mix. I don't normally use the Big Nasty Bass, Ryan from Black Dahlia Murder. I don't normally use this, but I accidentally clicked on it when I was going to my normal preset, which is the Devon heavy bass, which is kind of a distorted bass. And the Big Nasty Bass has an upper mid thing happening that I really, really like. And I combined that on the first track with the built-in Logic Ampeg amp. And we are going to listen to that individually. So here's the bass track, the finished bass track. So here is just the Big Nasty Bass. Okay, so the Ampeg, the clean bass is just really kind of adding some thud, and the tune track bass is doing the bulk of the work. Now on the bass bus, I'm compressing in a pretty healthy manner. And then I'm coming in after that with the Waves Cla bass. And this, I didn't add a lot of bass and treble, but I did add some more compression and a little bit of low lows and a little bit of growl for the distortion overall on the whole track to kind of glue the clean and the dirty together. I came in, I fine-tuned what I wanted to hear with just the built-in stock Logic EQ. And then I used a FabFilter multiband compressor to further clean up the low end that I had added in the CLA. So that's the bass guitar. There's really not a whole lot to do, but there's a lot of little things you have to do at different stages in order to keep it clean, big, but not flabby. I was really worried about flabby because I was conscious that I changed the kick drum that we went over at the very beginning with the Toontrack MIDI drum kit. So now we're in the harmonies, and the harmony section sounds like this. So with these guys, when I reamped them, I used channel 4, which is a gainier. It's kind of basically, it's built for lead. It's built for shred. And I used the overdrive in front of it still. But I came in and I scooped out a bunch of the low end because I didn't want a bunch of low end clouding up what I had going on with the rhythm guitars and the bass. And then I just used the Joey Sturgis, JST, Joey Sturgis Tones gain reducer. Now this is a vocal compressor, but using it in a lead guitar is very much like a vocal lead. And I was able to further scoop out the low end using the body control. And I just turned the body control down on this compressor and I'm slamming it, I'm crushing it, and it sounds great. So I'm going to turn these off and we're going to slowly add them back in. Now listen for the lows when I turn the EQ on and off. You'll really hear a difference there. Now, I also have the main bus of the Harmony 1 being bussed to a delay. Now, that is just an H delay from Waves, and that is just adding some body and some cut within the mix. So far we have the melody, we have the big rhythm guitars, we have the bass guitar, and we have the drums. Now coming up is Tre Solo. Now Tre Solo is interesting in that he decided to kind of harmonize with what I was playing coming out of the lead part and into the ending section, which I thought was cool. And for Tre Solo, I reamped using channel 4 on the Revv. Same setup as what I was using with the Harmonies. But on the bus, I used the Joey Sturgis gain reduction on the bus only, with busing it to the H delay. Just like we went over on the Harmony one. And that was it. I didn't have to do anything. So, Tre Solo in context sounds like this. Okay, so you'll notice there's also a little bit of automation when the other one comes in, but we'll get to that in a second. So Tre Solo sounds like this, and it's very dynamic, but it needed to cut, and without the JST gain reduction plugin, here's what it sounds like. So you'll notice, not necessarily at the first part, but the second half of that passage, his playing, because he's doing a lot more, he's doing more notes and he's doing kind of a faster run instead of the less notey big melodic bends, his overall volume kind of dips, and the gain reduction plugin really just kind of levels all that out nicely and lets the cut continue in the rest of the mix. Now, I will note that when the solo comes in on the rhythm guitars, I dipped the rhythm guitars almost a dB, just to make a little bit more sonic room for the solo. You never want to really have a solo that busy and that shreddy over something without dipping the volume. You know, even a half dB will make a huge difference in a lot of cases with the rhythm guitars. So I dipped the rhythm guitars, and then when he comes back out of it, I put them back up to where they were before the solo. It's real clean, and this is a pretty good tip for any of you guys that are trying to really make a solo fit but have done all the EQ and compression that you think you can do. This just takes another step further in letting you get a lot of cut out of the lead. So now, while we're on the automation, you'll see some of the automation I did on Tre Solo. It's pretty consistent for the first half or so. Now the automation was kind of necessary because with me doing the lead already and then him coming in and doing the lead, it raised the volume quite a bit, and it didn't add a whole lot to have that many lead things going on at the same time in an already kind of dense mix. So I put him kind of low, but you can hear what he's doing. Let's go back and listen to it soloed with the automation. And that is Tre's part. It turned out really well. He's a very tight, very good player. Don't tell him I said that though. And that is about it. Also of note, this is the first mix that I mixed with the multi-band compressor on the whole time from start to finish. Now, with the multi-band is really kind of just cleaning up and keeping the low end pretty tight. Without it, it's a little flubby, and it's interesting to hear it without it because I never heard the mix without this on. And this is kind of like a top to bottom mixing style versus bottom to top and then adding it after the fact. So let's check this out without the multiband, and then I'm just going to switch the multiband on and off. And there you have it, the Revv Generator 120 video. If you have any more questions, feel free to leave them down below in the description. You have been wonderful. I have been Fluff. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.